WPT Gold, they created this giant wave of money.
5 million people under tsunami alerts.
And tonight here, the obvious concerns, whether there could be more coming.
There's a tsunami coming. We were pretty shocked, not gonna lie.
They knew exactly what they were doing.
They know exactly what they were doing, and they could predict what would happen.
There's definitely a tsunami, and it looks like there's actually 2.
This is not a victimless crime. They doubled down. They added more Gold Rush passes.
How the fuck do we stop Club WPT Gold from doing this?
I don't think they can. I don't think they can stop them.
Club Gold needs to stand back, stand down, and not be providing prize money like this. It's not good for poker.
Daniel Negreanu has had enough, and he has decided to take to YouTube to talk about the recent incident in the Millionaire Maker, with a $1 million bonus prize being awarded by WPT to whoever wins some select events over this summer, including the Millionaire Maker tournament. But it's not just Daniel Negreanu weighing in on this issue. Lee Jones as well posted a video on YouTube giving his full thoughts about what has happened here. And the cliff notes from both these players, they don't like it one bit. This is just another example of the proxy war that is breaking out between WSOP and WPT. It's a 2-horse race in the poker world, with more live poker tournament series being owned by just these 2 players, by more online poker sites being owned by just these 2 players, by more poker streams being owned by just these 2 players. It seems like we are headed for a head-on collision between 2 of the biggest brands in poker, and I imagine there will be much more drama in store for years to come. This Millionaire Maker tournament is not the first example of this happening. In fact, the first, and I would say biggest issue between these 2 brands happened a couple of years ago when WPT had scheduled its championship series over the course of December, and WSOP responded by running their own series right over the top of it in the Bahamas. Many poker players had to choose between both of these events, meaning you could not play in both of these full series, and everyone had to make a choice for where they wanted to play. Now look, in my opinion, which obviously might be biased, by the way, I think this was an extremely out of line maneuver from the WSOP to try and prevent the WPT from having more market share. Now, this has escalated over the last couple of years, with bigger and bigger events and more tournaments going at the exact same time in the middle of December. And we're going to take a step back and analyze over the last few years of poker, what is good for poker, what's good for the game, what brings bad attention, what hurts poker. Well, I would say running 2 gigantic series at the exact same time to not allow your competitor to have a big poker series, in my opinion, I would say that's pretty bad for poker. And poker players have felt this effect. Every December now, you have to ask people which one they're going to. Typically speaking, we see more high rollers and international players going to the one for WSOP, and we see more Americans and mid-stakes players and West Coast players going to the WPT in Las Vegas. Fast forward to today, with WPT launching their American-facing poker website, ClubWPT Gold, which you can get 20 sweeps coins with your first purchase today using code Doug, and entry to a 100,000 sweeps coins tournament. With the launch of that platform, ClubWPT Gold was trying to make a large splash and give away millions of dollars with a promotion that would make people excited and get a lot of buzz about what's going on in the tournament scene. This is where things got complicated with the Millionaire Maker event, and let's start off with looking at Lee Jones' video where he talks about this subject. Over the course of the video, Lee had lots of hot takes, like, for example, some of these.
This is not a victimless crime. This is industrial sabotage, if you will. WPT Club Gold needs to stand back, stand down, and not be providing prize money like this.
I find some of these comments to be a little bit hypocritical. If we look back on the history of poker, we have long since had promotions going on where players would win extra money if they take down a tournament, especially if they're patched up to promote that tournament, basically bonuses for winning. Now, they've rarely been this large, and I don't think that they've almost ever been this large in relation to the prize pool, but we've certainly seen this over the years. Also, in many poker tournaments, it's okay for players to chop the prize pool entirely. In fact, in my opinion, I believe that the money belongs to the players, and the poker room should be helping facilitate those chops Trying to say that you don't have a right to chop up the remaining prize pool because of prestige of your event is, in my opinion, not great. I think players should have a right to their money. Again, just one person. Every poker tournament series can do what they would like to. I also enjoy this giant wave of money comment.
They know exactly what they were doing, and they could predict what would happen if they created this giant wave of money.
Oh, brutal. I hate when giant waves of money end up in poker players' pockets. This is just the worst. I'm just glad someone wasn't afraid to say it.
The fact is that this is not a victimless crime, if you will, because the WSOP's integrity and their brand reputation is dramatically harmed by these events.
I also don't really agree that this is not a victimless crime and that somehow the WSOP's brand is hurt by this. If anything, in my opinion, I think it's the opposite. This adds attention to poker. Think about how many people heard about this story. It made front page ESPN. It's getting talked about by Daniel Negreanu in his vlog. It's getting talked about all over the internet. It's brought hundreds of thousands of new people into my channel. I did also want to take a moment to thank everyone. I believe this last week has been roughly the best week I've ever had on YouTube. We've had so many thousands of new viewers, subscribers. I want to let you know, I really appreciate people supporting what I do here on the channel, and it means a lot to me you guys tune in for my videos, even though they can be stupid sometimes. But anyway, I don't understand how this hurts the WSOP when they're not involved in this in any capacity. How can it hurt your integrity when players do something like this? And guess what, guys? I hate to break it to you. You think this is the first time two players have chopped up the money at the end of a tournament? I'm going to take the over.
Right now, everybody at the World Series is talking about nothing except this chip dumping scandal. It's the whole narrative of the event, and that's not what the World Series of Poker wants. And it's not good for poker either.
In my opinion, it's just not true that it's all people are talking about. We've had Martin Cabril constantly popping back up, whether you would like it or not. We've also had The Grinder. We've also had Sheena. We've had so many different stories come up where people won events that were notable or caused stirs or caused controversies. And that's the reality of poker I think we have to face. Poker is not some clean, super in the box game where everyone plays exactly right and everything is kumbaya and the clips of the poker are fun for people. Poker is about gambling and drama and the gray market world of between the clean and between the unethical, like where poker lies. That's the drama of it. This is what made Rounders so big, in my opinion, was straddling those two worlds in a compelling way to the average viewer. Almost everyone in the world knows poker, or at least almost everyone in America knows of poker, but how many of them know what you should 3-bet in the cutoff? Almost none of them. In fact, I would argue many of our players that play don't know that.
We should be talking about the people that are playing poker, the exciting hands, the great poker that is on display here, not a scandal involving a third-party business.
The WSOP has never been about the great poker on display. It's been about winning stuff. It's been about running hot. It's been about debt. It's been about cheating. It's been about drama. Think about all of the big stories in WSOP over the years. It's about like who ran hot and won. It's not about the great poker. Once again, no one cares about your pocket fives.
Furthermore, when they saw what had happened, they doubled down. They added more Gold Rush passes, and they are paying the $1 million to the theoretical winner, Yaganuma.
Mr. Samir Naga, he's not going to work here anymore anyway.
It's also crazy to me to say that they doubled down and are paying the money. How is it doubling down if you do the thing you're going to do? If you do the thing, that's singling down. It's the same number.
It is one thing for companies to compete with each other. If they want to compete for turf, if they want to compete for the best schedules for their poker tournament series, that's fine. But this is industrial sabotage, if you will.
And this is industrial sabotage? We're getting really wrapped up in some players getting some extra money for winning a tournament. This all does seem a little bit on the nose for me, given Lee Jones's history. Lee worked at PokerStars during the PokerStars Supernova Elite scandal, as I understand it. where basically players earned this Supernova Elite rakeback tier awards where they were going to make a bunch of extra money that year and then the following year. And PokerStars pulled the plug on the program, which cost players tens of thousands of dollars in equity or EV that they would have been entitled to had the program remained, in a fashion that was not particularly well received because there was no lead up to it. They just decided to pull the plug, pull the rug out, flip the switch, whatever. Lee Jones also weighed in on this, saying, many people said that the only honorable thing for me to do would be to quit PokerStars. My view was that if I quit every time an employer did something awful, I'd be bouncing from job to job with no end in sight. Did I have selfish motives like wanting to pay my mortgage? Don't be absurd. Of course I did. I guess you could say when it came to keeping his job, Lee doubled down. Lee has also had some articles over the years that were perhaps a bit in poor taste. Like, for example, Lee Jones, the point of poker is not to win money. Okay, Lee, well, sounds like I have a piece of legislation for you. Now over to Daniel Negreanu. Now, I have not really weighed in on many Daniel Negreanu related matters over the course of the last few years. We all know the backstory with the more rake is better and the heads up challenge and the billboard and whatever else. So I've been trying to wait for moments that I think is particularly important, and I do think this is one of them. When Negreanu first mentioned on Twitter that in tomorrow's vlog, I open with my thoughts on the sleaziest promo I've seen in my 30 plus years of poker, and then a quote to the Lee Jones video saying no winners here, there was a response from the poker community that was overwhelmingly negative, including Martin Zamani saying, bro, PokerStars rugged SNE promo when you were ambassador, LOL. That's right, the SNE debacle that took hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of dollars in value from players who had earned Supernova Elite did happen on Daniel Negreanu's watch. So certainly it does feel slightly sleazier to me to not pay out money that you said you would pay rather than do a promotion that you feel like impacts a game that you think shouldn't impact it. I would say not paying probably sleazier than the alternative. The word sleazy. Not paying the money you're supposed to pay. It feels like it has to be worse, but I digress. Let's jump into the video where Negreanu goes through this, and we're going to show lots of footage. I don't want any accusations of this being taken out of context because we've all seen how that can go.
What happened was one small snippet was taken completely out of context and misrepresenting completely my position.
So let's jump into the most recent Daniel Negreanu vlog where he discusses what happened.
Let's discuss the resolution that was announced last night on Twitter. WSOP announced that both players from the Millie Maker will receive all their money. That should be the headline. Both players are going to get their money. In addition to that, it was ruled that the play was, as we saw, a farce. Neither player earned a bracelet. Neither player will be rewarded with a bracelet. In addition to that, they may face some no trespass issues with Nevada Gaming and Caesars making those decisions. Those are out of my hands.
I have a huge problem with this. It's pronounced Nevada. I do agree with Daniel. The headline here, both players getting paid, definitely a good thing. I agree with that. That's the right thing. What I find a bit peculiar is the end here where we're talking about them being banned from the Caesars properties, which as I understand it, they are banned everywhere. I don't know why we're phrasing this like they may or may not be. I would assume that Daniel knows. And I think it's a pretty important piece here. Permanently banning people from the World Series of Poker is a gigantic punishment. If you play tournaments for a living, and both of these guys play a lot of tournament poker, I imagine it's their primary career, losing the World Series of Poker is like losing your main source of income, your number one biggest source of income. That is a huge punishment, and I don't think that's something that should be taken lightly.
First thing I really wanted to discuss about it was, I don't blame the players one bit. They were put in a brutal spot, and we're going to talk about why and how they were put in that spot a little bit later. But first, let's discuss the situation. Apparently, one of the guys, and I have friends, mutual friends, have discussed this. For all intent and purposes, I know these two people as good people. One of them was, facing severe financial hardships, just trying to get back on his feet.
This is a very funny way of doing this. Daniel's trying to protect the person who's broke, which I guess is a good thing. You don't want everyone to know this guy is struggling, but it's not a long list of people. Which one of these guys is it? It could be any of either of them. I also feel like if you don't blame the players, then I would probably lean against this lifetime ban, but I get that it's not his call. Let's move on.
Had about 10 minutes to decide on what to do here, was given this opportunity, took it. From what I heard, he now regrets making that decision. A little too late, but it is what it is. Also, this is important. The third place finisher was also approached and denied he didn't want to take part in it, right? So a lot of you have said, well, what's the difference? It doesn't affect any of the other participants. Clearly, the evidence shows that it may have.
This caveat is breaking news and is very interesting to me. So apparently there was something discussed three-handed and a third player declined. Now, that does kind of open the door here, and I can see where the awkwardness is. Let's just say that, with 4 people or 5 people or maybe 3 people, whatever it was, we had a player go to the other players and say, hey guys, let's chop this money. And they say no. What happens now? Right? Do the other players just play normally, or do you kind of in the back of your mind think, hey, if that guy busts, we can chop up this $1 million? It kind of does psychologically impact your play. And of course, I'm not accusing the players of having done that, but when you recognize there is a financial incentive here, it might change your outlook. As the famous saying goes, you show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Pretty sure that one's from Pot Ripper.
The other two have a deal in place. This guy in third doesn't want to do that. So they both have incentive for him to be eliminated in third because there's an extra $1 million available for them. That's a carrot that may be too difficult to resist. Either consciously or subconsciously, it can affect the play. I'm not saying it did, but it could. I wish both players would have not even played the farce and forced the commentators to make these, try to make sense of what is actually happening. And just one of them just says, I'm not feeling well. I'm going home. I forfeit, right?
What makes this conversation interesting is oftentimes players will have something on the side if they win a tournament. Historically, we've had many promotions where players could win money by winning the tournament, including, by the way, I might add, GG Poker, who has put in hundreds of players into the WSOP main event, where they win an extra $1 million if they win on top of it. So this isn't even just a WPT thing. It's been a GG Poker thing. It's been many websites in the past. Players can have bracelet bets on winning their own bracelets. There are so many different ways that players might have extra incentive to chop up. And I do believe fundamentally players have a moral obligation to act ethically with their competitors that I don't think falls on the entity itself. Let me give you an extreme example. Let's say that in a three-handed high roller, 2 players just say, screw that guy, we're going to collude. Obviously messed up, and it makes them millions of dollars. So the point is, these things can always happen. The point is the players need to be acting ethically amongst themselves.
Objectively, I'm a GG WSOP guy. That's obvious, right? But I've said many times that competition around town when the World Series of Poker comes, I'm a free market guy. All for it. Listen, it's best for the players because not only does the venues around town offer good things to the players. It's good for Las Vegas. It's good for the city, but also it forces the WSOP to elevate the player experience as well with things like the WSOP Plus app and other things like that. No lines, you name it, right? Now, as I said, so competition's fair, but this promo, without a doubt, in my 30 years of poker, is this either A, if they did this knowingly, knowing there would be a controversy, and I don't see how you don't see it happening, this is the sleaziest promo I've ever heard of in 30 years, bar none. If you didn't know and you didn't foresee this, well, there's obliviousness there and just kind of an incompetence to what kind of black mark this is going to create for poker. Because make no mistake, that's what it did.
Lots to get to, but to start off, I immediately found a sleazier promo. Win this free roll, you get a date with a girl. A real one. Poor Tiffany Michelle. Fun quote from in here. She didn't mind who wins, man or a woman. Sure, lots of women were signing up for that free roll. What do I think really? I think that ClubWPT Gold wanted to make a big splash on one of the premier events that there is in poker by giving away millions of dollars to get people excited to go play, and this promo was the way that they did it. Now, I do think that there are some good points Daniel made here with maybe some ways that it could be done in the future. Like, for example, perhaps it would be better to say something like, if there is believed to be collusion or foul play, or the parties work together, or it looks like it was unethical, perhaps then your prize is discounted or your prize is removed or whatever it might be to prevent that third, fourth, fifth person situation that I mentioned earlier. But I don't think it has to be sleazy or incompetent. It can just be that it was an idea to bring people in and give away a lot of money to the poker community by using big dollar amounts, and it just happened to work out in a way that caused a lot of controversy. And in my opinion, I still don't think this was extremely controversial. Maybe that's a hot take, but these 2 players decided to chop up their own money in an event. Again, I recognize I'm just one person.
what kind of black mark this is going to create for poker. Because make no mistake, that's what it did. ESPN wrote a piece about cheating at the World Series, all this sort of thing. Who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit anybody in poker, right?
I strongly disagree with this. I think anytime we can get stories about poker in front of large audiences of people, even when it's in a gray area, I think that greatly helps poker because we want people to see poker and get brought into the game. Look, I covered this topic, and I saw hundreds of thousands of new people that have not commented or seen poker videos come in and give their opinions, and most of them thought it was fine. So now we have awareness being built on ESPN, on YouTube, in all of these outlets with a real story that, frankly, no one even got financially hurt within the story. There was no cheating per se, and that a third party was hurt, at least in the heads up portion that we know of. The point of the matter is, when we have these big stories, we bring in all these new people. It brings new eyeballs to poker. More people play poker. I simply just disagree. Compelling stories are what makes poker fun and is what brings people to the game. I know that Lee Jones would say we need to capture the exciting hands, but I hate to break it to you guys, don't make me talk about pocket fives again. That's not what people want to see. They want to see pocket sixes.
This is just bad for poker. There are no winners here. You know, some people say, oh, it was worth the publicity to spend the money. I'm like, do you think so? You raised attention, sure, but whose attention did you raise?
I'd argue that there are only winners here. WSOP got a story that attracted way more attention to its product. WPT got the word out about its promotion and online poker platform. And if not those two entities, I can certainly think of two other winners.
Whose attention did you raise? Outside of the most important ones, which is Nevada Gaming and the regulators. I don't think that's the kind of attention that you want. So in the end, I think everyone loses here. I do have empathy for the two players who, even though they won $1 million, I have empathy for them because, you know, they're not going to be able to play the World Series for I don't know how long. Yeah, that's the end of my rant. But again, like I said, you know, shame on you if you knew, and if you didn't, do better.
Okay, so we did know that they're banned. We just got there by the end of it. I still don't feel like this was that bad. We gave millions of dollars to poker players for playing poker tournaments. In fact, don't you think in some ways it's helpful to WSOP if people are getting millions of dollars to go play in their tournaments? This is the second time $1 million has been won this series, and the series is not even over yet. I still don't understand who the losers are until Caesars banned their asses and kicked them to the curb on WSOP events. I don't really understand. That's going to be it for me. I got probably one more video in the tank here before I head out to Vegas for the WSOP main event. If you guys want to follow my journey, you can do so on my social medias, Doug Polk Poker and stuff. It'll be fun to be out there in Vegas. Feel free to say what's up. Happy to take pictures, sign stuff. Really excited to go out there and play the main event this year, and I'm looking forward to representing the Code Doug team. So I'll see you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you again soon.